Hi, friends. I'm Max Lucado. Welcome to Fresh Hope. I'm so glad you joined me for the final episode in this series that's based on my book, In the Eye of the Storm. Some storms in life are short, lasting only a day or a week, but some storms linger. They rage for months, even years. What do we do when we are weary from the rain-battered journey? I learned something about this many years ago, and I'd like to tell you that story. When my daughters were young, we used to drive to my mom's house way out in West Texas for Thanksgiving. Most of those miles on the road with three little ones are hazy in my memory, but one particular year I remember well. About 3 hours into the 6-hour trip, I realized I was in a theology lab. A day with a car full of kids will teach you a lot about God. A journey is a journey, whether the destination be the Thanksgiving table or the heavenly one. Both demand patience, a good sense of direction, and a driver who knows that the feast at the end of the trip is worth the hassles in the midst of the trip. The fact that my pilgrims were all under the age of 7 only enriched my learning experience. While on the road, Dean and I discussed the similarities between these earthly and heavenly journeys. Here are a few we noted. To reach the destination, we have to say no to some requests. Can you imagine the outcome if a parent honored each request of each child during a trip? We'd inch our bloated bellies from one ice cream store to the next. Our priority would be popcorn, and our itinerary would read like a fast food menu. Go to the Cherry Malt and make a right. Head north until you find the chili cheeseburger. Stay north for 1,300 calories and bear left at the giant pizza. Can you imagine the chaos if a parent indulged every indulgence? Can you imagine the chaos if God indulged each of ours? No is a necessary word to take on a trip. Destination has to reign over the Dairy Deluxe ice cream sundae. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 9 says, "For God has not destined us to the terrors of judgment, but to the full attainment of salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ." Please note God's destiny for your life. Salvation. God's overarching desire is that you reach that destiny. His itinerary includes stops that encourage your journey, and he frowns on stops that deter you. When his sovereign plan and your earthly plan collide, a decision must be made. Who's in charge of this journey? If God must choose between your earthly satisfaction and your heavenly salvation, which do you hope he chooses? Me too. When I'm in the driver's seat as the father of my children, I remember that I'm in charge, but when I'm in the passenger's seat as a child of my Father, I forget he's in charge. I forget God is more concerned with my destiny than my belly. And I complain when he says no. The requests my children made on the road to Grandma's weren't evil or rebellious. In fact, we had a couple of cones and cokes. But most of the requests were unnecessary. Now, my then 4-year-old daughter would have argued that fact. From her viewpoint, another soft drink was indispensable to her happiness. I knew otherwise, and so I said no. A 40-year-old adult would argue that fact. From his standpoint, a new boss is indispensable to happiness. God knows otherwise and says no. A 30-year-old woman would argue that fact. From her standpoint, that man with that job and that name is exactly who she needs to be happy. Her father, who is more concerned that she arrive at his holy city than at the altar, says, "Wait a few miles. There's a better option down the road." "Wait?" she protests. "How long do I have to wait?" Which takes us to a second similarity between the two journeys. Children have no concept of minutes or miles. I told my girls, "We'll be there in 3 hours." "How long is 3 hours?" Jenna asked. How do you explain time to a child who can't tell time? I tried. I told Jenna 3 hours is about as long as 3 episodes of Sesame Street. The children groaned in unison. 3 Sesame Streets. That's forever. And to them it is. And to us, it seems that way too. Isaiah 57:15 describes God as he who lives forever. And this God has placed himself at the head of a band of pilgrims who mutter like the psalmist, "How long, O Lord, how long?" Psalm 89 in verse 46. How long must I endure this sickness? How long must I endure this spouse? How long must I endure this paycheck? Do you really want God to answer? He could. He could answer in terms of the here and now with time increments we know and understand. 2 more years of the illness, the rest of your life in the marriage, 10 more years for the bills. But he seldom does that. He usually opts to measure the here and now against the there and then. And when you compare this life to that life, this life ain't long. 1 Chronicles 29:15 says, "Our days on earth are like a shadow." Psalm 39:5 says, "Each man's life is but a breath." James 4:14 says, "You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes." It's a short journey, I tell my children. We're almost there. I know. I've been there before. I've driven this road. For me, it's no challenge. But for the children, it's eternal. So I try another approach. I tell them to think about how good it will be when we get there. The turkey, the dressing, the pie. I promise them the trip will be worth it. But they still groan. Which takes us to a third similarity. Children can't envision the reward. For me, 6 hours on the road was a small price to pay for my mom's strawberry cake. I don't mind the drive because I know the reward. I've had decades of Thanksgivings under my belt, literally. As I drove, I could taste the turkey, hear the dinner table laughter, smell the smoke from the fireplace. I could endure the journey because I knew the destiny. My daughters had forgotten the destiny. After all, they were young. Children easily forget. Besides, the road was strange, and the dark night had come. They couldn't see where we were going. It was my job as their father to guide them. I tried to help them see what they couldn't see. I told them we'd feed the ducks at the lake, that we'd play on the swings. I told them how we would spend the night with their cousins. We spoke of sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags and staying up late since there was no school. And it seemed to work. Their grumbling decreased and their vision cleared as their destiny unfolded. Perhaps that's how the Apostle Paul stayed motivated. He had a clear vision of the reward. As he said in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. It's not easy to get 3 girls under the age of 7 to see a city they can't see, but it's necessary. It's not easy for us to see a heavenly city we've never seen either, especially when the road is bumpy and the hour is late and companions are wanting to cancel the trip and take up residence in a motel. It's not easy to fix our eyes on what is unseen, but it's necessary. One line in this 2 Corinthians passage makes me smile. Our light and momentary troubles. I wouldn't have called them that if I were the Apostle Paul. According to 2 Corinthians 11, verses 23 through 27, he was imprisoned. He was beaten with a whip 5 times. He faced death, beaten with a rod 3 times, stoned once, shipwrecked 3 times, stranded in the open sea, left homeless, in constant danger, hungry and thirsty, long and trying ordeals, perhaps, arduous and deadly afflictions, okay, but light and momentary troubles? How could Paul describe endless trials with that phrase? He tells us, he could see an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Can I speak candidly for a minute? For some of you, the journey has been long, very stormy. In no way do I wish to minimize the difficulties that you have had to face along the way. Some of you have shouldered burdens that few of us could ever carry. You have bid farewell to lifelong partners. You have been robbed of lifelong dreams. You have been given bodies that can't sustain your spirit. You have bills that outnumber the paychecks and challenges that outweigh the strength. And you are tired. It's hard for you to see God's city in the midst of the storms. The desire to pull over to the side of the road and get out entices you. You want to go on, but some days the road seems so long. Let me encourage you with one final parallel between your life's journey and the one our family took those years ago. It's worth it. As we sat around the Thanksgiving table that holiday, no one spoke of the long trip to get there. No one mentioned the requests I didn't honor. No one complained about the late hour of arrival. We were all stuffed and content. Yesterday's challenges were lost in today's joy. That's what Paul meant. God never said that the journey would be easy, but he did say that the arrival would be worthwhile. Remember this, God may not do what you want, but he will always do what is right, and he will always do what is best. He's the Father of forward motion. Trust him. He'll get you home, and the trials of the trip will be lost in the joys of the feast. Thanks so much for joining me in this series based on my book, In the Eye of the Storm. We all face storms. We all face stress. But no matter how stormy your day or restless your night, please remember, God knows how you feel.
You don't have to stay close. As long as you're somewhere out there, that's enough for me. I don't need to hold you near me, don't need promises to keep. Just the thought that you are breathing somewhere in this world I see. Even if I'm not beside you, even if you never know, there's a quiet kind of comfort just in knowing you still glow. I don't need forever, I just need you to exist. You don't have to stay with me, you don't have to feel the same. Just as long as you're still out there, calling softly through my days. You don't have to look my way, you don't have to be my home. It's enough to know you're living in a world I'm not alone. I won't chase you through the distance, won't disturb your chosen life. I'll just keep you in my silence, like a star that shines at night. Through the dark and through the blue, I still think of you. You don't have to stay with me, you don't have to feel the same. Just as long as you're still out there, calling softly through my days. You don't have to look my way, you don't have to be my home. It's enough to know you're living in a world I'm not alone. I don't need to be your light, I don't need to cross your mind. All I need is just the truth that you're somewhere still alive.